Upanishad. We are on the 11th verse. Jnatva devam sarva pasha pahani kshine klesha janma mrityu prahani tasya vidhyana tatiyam deha bede vishwa aishwaryam kevala aptakamaha. So we are on page 86 and
Can you hear that? What is that? Okay. The phone. Oh, there's a phone. I think so.
yeah, that's it's okay. By knowing the deity comes the snapping of all bondages. On the attenuation of the pain-bearing obstructions comes the eradication of birth and death. From meditation on him there accrues, on the fall of the body, the third, the full divine power, and the person becomes absolute and self-fulfilled. So we have the page 86, 87. So here it talks about by knowing the deity comes the snapping of all bondages. The first line. Now here we have this idea that Natva is to know. There are in this verse there are two, you can see, results given. One is of knowledge and the other of meditation. The first two lines speak about knowledge. Once you know the deity, like here is saying, Devam. Devam is, as we know, is the luminous one, the shining one. It is not just a god. The same word is used for a god also, Deva. But Deva actually is the luminous, the shining. It means that Atman inside. By knowing that Atman comes the snapping of all bondages. Here we have Sarva Pashay Pahani. Now, Pasha is actually a noose. It's very strange. We are in a kind of we have got ourselves in a kind of a nice noose. And nobody really is tightening the noose. We ourselves are tightening it. Imagine we put a noose around neck and around limbs and all, and then we are tightening them. And so yeah, because Vedanta says don't blame the external world, don't blame any person for what you are right now in. If you are in a soup or you are in a kind of a curry or whatever, don't. Check out what you have done and you'll be able to remove those. You can loosen those nooses and come out of this. Shri Ramakrishna also used to say, in Bengali, used to say, Ashtapasha Baddha Atma Jivatma. That is what is the Jiva? What is the Jiva? That the individual soul is one who is bound by 8 fetters.
Ashtapasha.
Eight noses. So when the Jiva comes out of these 8, you can say, noses, what happens is it becomes Shiva. It becomes Shiva. So what are these 8? So he used to say, Lajja, Grina, Bhoy. I'll just read out to say, hate or dislike, a kind of a kind of a disgust. This is one of them. Yeah, it's subtle, but it's there. Shame, of course. a kind of a inhibition. Fear, there is a constant kind of uncertainty, a kind of a fear about certain things. It might not come in a huge form, like if a truck is coming towards you and then you panic. That's a fear, of course, and then, but here it is mostly this kind of a default, you can say, mode of the mind. That's a fear, low intensity, suspicion. That is another thing. You always doubt. You always suspect. Is it there? Is it? Oh no, I may not be there. Somebody said something about me. I suspect it's untrue. And then cool arrogance, or you can say pride in one's, you can say family, ancestry, all these things. Oh, I was like this. I was like that. So that also is one kind of.
What's the difference between attenuation, self-confidence, and pride?
Yeah, pride is based on false, you can say, presumption. Atma, yeah, certain things like yesterday, Swami P was, we listened to in some of his old lectures in the night class, and Swami P, Swami Prabhupada, he, before he could leave the country to come to the West here, he met Swami Turiyananda, and Turiyananda was a great soul. So Turiyananda kept on telling Swami P about himself, started praising him. And Swami P says, "Oh no, Maharaj, it's not, I'm not like that. I'm just an ordinary person." So Turiyananda says, "Shut up. I'm telling you things about you that will unfold once you go to the West." So there are people who know about others through that deep insight. That person might not be knowing himself or herself. Really, I'm so and so. Oh, what? But then, what's the difference between Atma, self-confidence and pride? Pride goes before the fall, as they say. So, yeah, if you have pride, you'll fall. And what's the result of self-confidence? Yeah, more self-confidence. People will look at you and learn from you and derive strength from you. They'll feel safe with you. These are the things that we should understand. The gulf of a difference. So, ancestry, all these things. So, and once you have this, you know, Sheila, it's like, you must be careful. You have proper etiquette, and you must be prim and proper in every situation, and speak properly, sit properly, do everything properly. Otherwise, oh, you see, the guy's crazy. I have my own ideas of modesty, of etiquette, and of, you can say, behavior and this and that. I get bound by these things. Oh, yes. So it is more, when you live in society, you have to have one norm of behavior. You cannot just behave the way you feel like it. But apart from that, you take pride in, oh, I'm doing the thing properly, and see that person, he or she not doing it. And then there are many things like road rage and this and that and the works. We may not openly say those things, But suppose we look at a kind of homeless person, like in that under the tarpaulin, mm, we really something in our heart like hardens instead of softening. Uh, like, so all these things, how could that person end up here? You should understand that there have been a long sequence of events behind that person's. We just see that person now and say, huh, we could in their place, if we could have been there, it could have been even worse stuff. So that kind of compassion does not arise. So all these things like no hardening of the heart and kind of oh you kind of dismissive behavior and also criticizing, gossiping, all these things come in there. Oh, he's like this or like that. So that is also one news put around that. Then superiority jati. Oh yes, sir. I'm born of this. It's not only ancestry. My ancestor were like I'm of a superior caste. Okay. There's nothing superior about it. But my grandfather was a prince there of that. So, kind of a small princeling and
Princeling.
of a small estate. It's not even a prince. You're taken. I think so. Oh, I was like. So, yeah, we have that tendency, no, to glorify ourselves, self glorification. We generally don't realize, but then we tend to glorify ourselves and demean others. Oh, and secrets, or kind of a there are two meanings for this jugupsa. One is to be secretive, to hold something very secret, or disgust. So even the Upanishad, tato na vijugupsate, once you realize the truth, you will not be secretive about it. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of a person if he's given a mango. Uh, so one he made eat that and then wipe his mouth to remove all traces of that he had eaten. Another person, if he's given a mango, he will take it and first and will seek people out whom he can share it with. So this is the raw ego and the ripe ego, the immature and the mature. So once you are mature, you will take whatever you have and try to help others with that. First, oh, it's nothing secretive, nothing disgusting. It's just that I go out of myself to help others. This is what is this is the Ashtapasha. This is the 8 forms of you can say nose around our you've put around our neck, as they say. So Sarva Pasha, it's not just 8. It is actually every thought we think. If it is unselfish, it will not come back as a kind of a bondage of a nose. But we set in motion something, the law of karma. It emerges out from here, goes and circles either LA or California or the US or the whole world, and it comes back to us. If the thought is intense, it will come quickly. And is there, but it will come back to you, will come back and grab you. You did this, now you take this. So everything we set in motion is a kind of a news. So the best way is, oh Lord, this is your work and I belong to you and you are the giver of all these fruits. I surrender them to you. So you go and surrender to the Divine Mother. She is the ordainer of the fruits of action. Now, uh, and those that we have set in motion and they have already arrived in. So through prayer and meditation and all those you can see bondages are cut. So we were talking about that Kaliva and Lilliput, the land of the Lilliput. These are the small, the small people, they tie up a huge human being called Kaliva. And these are the small thoughts that we have set in motion over and over and over again, that they come and then they tie us up. And it's not just one thought, a series of thoughts and series of thoughts. By the time we understand what has exactly has happened, we have bound ourselves like that silkworm through the cocoon round itself. It builds that cocoon round itself. We are like that. So, how do we emerge out of this mess? By knowing, by Jnatva Deva, by knowing that deity, by knowing that luminous. Now, where is that? As the Upanishad has been saying, there inside. The first thing is, we're talking about Tattva Bhav, that is the reality, the existence of reality. You must be able to be convinced first, intellectually, that this self, the Atman, exists in me, or God exists. That's the Tattva Bhava. It is only after that you can meditate. Your meditation or your prayers become fruitful. Why is that? You're not even sure, you're not even convinced that God exists. And then you're praying, oh God, if you are here, if you God, where are you now? And as a result, what happens is that prayer does not become prayer of meditation, it does not become powerful enough. It does not cut through these, you can say, these bondages. It cannot hack through. So even in the Kathopanishad is said, Asti iti eva upalabdhavya. Asti iti, it is there. God exists. Myself exists. So that person, tattva bhava prasidati, that reality starts manifesting to that person. It is only after this that meditation becomes fruitful. Because what is meditation? Meditation is the form of knowing. Dhyana, jnana. So every time we sit down to meditate, what do? We are trying to understand, trying to get knowledge of either God, if you're meditating on God, or if you're meditating on the soul. So every time you meditate, you come away from the meditation with more knowledge of the self or of the inner world, whatever it is. Now, after you keep on doing this thing slowly, there will come a point of time where you know, you know the truth. And this is what is called knowledge. So there, the knower merges in the known, or rather, no. In Swami Vivekananda was asked this question during his Harvard lectures. The subject merges in the object. No, the object merges in the subject. So here we have. So the object merges in the subject. It's very strange. The object of meditation, we have. Suppose now you're supposed to meditate on the Divine Mother Durga, okay, and you're meditating on that slowly. Now Durga is an object of meditation, and you are the subject you're meditating. Actually, that Durga mother, is actually the subject. Yes, it's just that we have, kind of, it's called adhyasa. We have projected that self, that subject out and objectified it for the purposes of prayers and meditation and worship and all these things. You got it? So this is what she is actually the self. Like you're supposed to meditate on Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna actually is the self. So what about me? Yeah, what about you? What about you? That's a big question. You find yourself merging into Ramakrishna. That's right. Because your separate identity cannot exist separately. It's like, sparks coming out of the fire. How long will they last? Just and there. So when you're part of the greater reality, your existence becomes permanent and eternal. So what about my individuality? Yeah, we are constantly objectifying the self. So that is why, as we keep on meditating, those three things, the object of meditation, the process of meditation, and the meditator, they merge. And when they merge, there it's over. You, I, you, all this I, you business is all gone out. And what remains is that reality. Now, can we know this thing? Yes, in the scriptures is spoken about, the reality spoken, Swayam Prakasha, self-luminous. It does not need anything else to illuminate. Like you need these lights to illuminate this room. And look at sun, okay, you don't need another sun to illuminate the sun. It's there, self-luminous. So this self, the Atman also is like that, self-luminous. You don't need me or you to prove that the Atman exists. So there it is, self-luminous. And in those higher states of consciousness, what happens is, even without these instruments of sensory, mental, any kind of physical or intellectual, you don't need any kind of, these are instruments to know. You don't need, you just know. That is a state of, you can say, knowledge. So when you know, what happens is all your bondages drop off. Jnatva devam sarva pashay prahari. Hani is to cut. All these is a cut. Then the second line is, on the attenuation of the pain-bearing obstructions come the eradication of birth and death. On page 87, the first line, on the attenuation of the pain-bearing obstructions comes the eradication of birth and death. Klesha, so Sheena, attenuation. These things can attenuate.
Klesha is what?
Klesha is, I'll come to that. Klesha is that which gives you pain. Klishta, pain. When you start practicing yoga or meditation, first thing you need to understand is, first catch the culprit, that which gives you pain. Those painful things have to be countered first. There are some things that do not give you pain. They are there. Great. Things about myself and things about probably my dog or my car. And, it's okay. I mean, it's not, they don't hurt you. They don't give you kind of uh, stab in the back or something like that.
Mhm.
It's just that you feel pleasant with that. So later on, you'll have to counter even those impressions. But right now, don't do anything about it. Just leave them. So first take those things which are painful. So the Patanjali in his Yoga Sutra talks about Vrittaya, the, the whirlpools in the mind are, some are painful, some are not painful. Klishta or klishta, he says. So what are the painful ones? Ignorance or non-knowledge. Then we have attachment, aversion, and avidya, asmita. And then you have the feeling, I. And then the fear of death. These are the five. So we have non-knowledge, we have the feeling of attraction or attachment and aversion. These are powerful factors. They play on our minds always. We have the feeling of my, my. Everything. This is mine. This is mine. This is mine. Asmita. This is my body. Somebody told you, this is your body. This is you. Oh, really? Oh, okay, fine.
Mhm.
And this clinging on to life, the fear of death. So these are the five painful, you can say, whirlpools in the mind that need to be countered. So these are the klesas. So once you can conquer them, what happens is you overcome, uh, comes the eradication of birth and death. Yeah, you overcome birth and death. So the, on the attenuation of these. So how do we go about it? You keep on praying, you keep on meditating slowly, slowly. Your attachment and aversion, which swings like a kind of a pendulum, is slowly
Mm.
still. That wild swings now, you are kind of in a kind of equipoise. And once you're in the equipoise, you can see things much clearly. So when you are still, you can see things clearly. If you're running or you're dancing, then what happens? You cannot see things clearly. So if I'm saying, look at a kind of object. So you need to be still, your mind needs to be still. The wild gyrations stop. Then you can understand, oh, what is really mine here? What is me? It's nothing. Everything has been given to me, in fact. The body has been given to me. Yeah, and all this knowledge and skills and everything that I have learned is what I have acquired from other people. So I've only come with some stupidity, and why should I say be so grandiose about it? Just keep quiet. That so the asmita also keeps on going down, and then once your mind is a little calm, you will find that it is it is sparkling with knowledge. Swami Vivekananda says the the infinite library of the universe is in your own mind. Here we have. Yes. Can you imagine the infinite library of the universe in your own mind? This is there. So ignorance slowly, slowly goes. Like there's Max Muller. I mean, I don't know whether the incident actually happened or not, but he mentions it that Socrates, he meets a Brahmin. He's catch somebody and ask questions. So he said, what is your study? So the Brahmin asked him, what is your study? The greatest study is the study of man. The Brahmin says, how can you know man if you do not know God? There you are. You have to relate the individual to the universal. You have to relate the small divinity to the larger divinity. You cannot study this person here and say, this is my field of study. If I want to know about myself, I'll have to give you about the settings also. All these things are also included in the greater part of my being and personality. So you have to always relate the individual to the whole, the part to the whole. So how can you know man if you do not know God? It's simple.
Om.
Om.
Pranam.
Yeah. See, I'll call you later.
It's gold.
Gold.
Yeah. Uh, so when we want to understand really ourselves, look at the people around you. Do they love you? And if they, yeah, then everything's okay with me. If people look at me and turn their faces, then I need to correct myself here. So, you know, it's said that you must listen to your enemies also, your detractors also, because they may be saying things about you which you do not know, or which you have ignored or you have suppressed. So they have something to tell you about yourself. So listen to them. Listen what is true, and if it is there, I need self-correction, I do it. So, and as we know, no individual can remain alone, isolated, cut away from everything. It's just not possible. Because our senses and our mind are designed to interact with others and the world. We would not have been having this kind of sensory system and the mental system if we never had to interact with this world, with other people. Simple. I want to see the world. I want to see a little light. I want to get a little fragrance here, and I want to see or touch this and that, and yeah, your senses are designed for this thing. So when we study the individual slowly, 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 what happens is we must understand that you will go towards the universal. So that universal is that God. How can you know man if you do not know God? Simple as that. It's a remarkable. In fact, Swami Vivekananda you can say, mentions this. So here we are. So how do I know about myself? That knowing that here it is said that after knowing the deity, that if I remember that there is that deity within me, my personality is just a kind of a projection. The real me is that deity. So then I slowly keep on thinking and meditating on that deity. And that's how. So I am that universal. Why is that fear of death, Swami Vivekananda says? Because you've narrowed yourself so long. So too down to the, you can say, where you feel that, oh, that's going to extinguish me. As you keep on broadening yourself, broadening yourself, the fear of death goes away. People who are unselfish, people who are loving, people who are compassionate, for them, death is not a big, you can say, issue. In fact, they are waiting for it. When is it coming? It's taking its own sweet time. So, like Shakespeare would, I think, would say, "Oh, death, where is thy sting?" Yeah, it's like that. Where is thy sting? Mm. once you know the deity, everything just drops off. And that's the reason why Vedanta says it is only through knowledge that you can become free. Knowledge of what? Of divinity, of your own divinity. That breaks up. And once you have this, then all those painful, you can say, things, the whirlpools in the mind, all dissipate or attenuated. Yeah, so like the sister who recognizes the brother coming with a mask of a tiger. Oh, you are my Hari. But then Hari, he smiles and takes the mask off because he's recognized. So once you recognize yourself, that mask just drops off. In the old days, that persona meant a kind of mask. These Greek plays and they used to wear these masks, and the actors then used to remove the mask. Nowadays we have makeup. It's more like a mask. So so your real you is beyond that persona, beyond that personality. The moment you know it, everything just drops off. And how quickly does it? Immediately. Swami Vivekananda speaks in his California lectures when he had come. How long does it take to realize that you are there? A blink of an eye. Yeah, but you have to wait for that blink. Then it says, from meditation on the deity, there accrues on the fall of the body the third, the full divine power. This is according to the Upanishad, according to the commentators, and according to not just one commentator, many commentators. What happens is there are three main courses of liberation. One is Jivan Mukti, you become free while you are alive. You don't need a post-mortem, you can say, state of, you can say, knowledge where you can know the God. Jivan Mukti. That post-mortem is called a Vidya Mukti. They say, there are some who are saying, no, after the fall of the body, that person attains the highest. Then those who have done a lot of good works, where will they go? They will go to the path of the gods. Work and meditation, of course. Vidya Devaloke, through knowledge of the meditation, they take the path of the gods. And how is the path of the gods? Agni, fire; Jyoti, light; Aha, daylight; Shukla, white; Shanmas, Uttarayan. That's Uttarayan. That's the sun where the sun takes the 6 months, you can say, northern course. So it's a path of light. That soul takes the path of light, and it's called Krama Mukti. Gradually goes higher and higher and higher till that soul reaches Brahma Lok, the highest state of, you can say, relative existence. And when this whole cycle is merged, that soul becomes free and merges in the Supreme Brahma. These are the cycles, and beyond the cycle is the reality. These are the various levels of existence. highest is the Brahma, where it's just a step away. Chaya tapo Brahmaloka. So in Brahmaloka, in that level of existence, you can see truth, like how, like it's like this light and shadow. You know, but there's the light and shadow. There are others who have done exceedingly good work, just work. They take the path of darkness. It's nothing, it's not dark in the sense of, it's not condemning them into some kind of dark place. Then Dhumo Ratris Tata Krishna Shanmasa Dakshinayana Tatra Chandramasam Jyoti Yogi Prapya Nivartati. So he goes to smoke the 15 days of the dark fortnight of the moon and the night, and then the moon in this in the, you can say, the 6 months of the moon of darkness. That person goes to a place, karma yogi goes to a place where he has to return back here, he or she. So that person who has taken the path of light does not need to come back here. That person keeps on going further and further. Okay. So one is the path of no return, and one is the path of return. So you come back. So it's like, now in this sloka, by meditating on that deity, what happens in meditation. We're not talking about knowledge right now, because the first two lines of the uh, sloka, the mantra, were regarding immediate knowledge of reality, where you become free. Now, this person, another type of person, is now meditating. When you meditate on anything, or meditating on a book, or meditating on anything, your mind takes the form of that deity. You're meditating on a deity, your mind takes the form of that. And as you keep on and on and on and meditating, that form more or less becomes crystallized in the mind. So meditating on Ramakrishna, after a few years, you can just close your eyes and can see the form of Ramakrishna. So it has become natural. Now, in case now you have to leave, come now, this time. Then what happens? You have been meditating on Ramakrishna, or you meditating on some God. Then you attain that. And this is the one of the doctrines of the Bhagavad Gita. The last thought before you leave the body will determine the direction where you will go. Okay. So this person has been meditating on a particular deity, and he has not the full knowledge of that deity. Then what happens is, because that object of meditation and the subject and the whole process has not, merged into that oneness, there is still difference between me and the deity, me, the subject and object. As long as you have this, you've got to keep on moving about. So God is outside of me. Fine, I meditate and I keep on meditating. So I find myself going into that realm where I take the path of light. It's not an ordinary thing. It's a quite a big attainment. I will say, oh, No, it's and that's the reason why the Upanishad also speaks about it. It's not a mean attainment, and you are assured of ultimate liberation. Why bother? Take your time. I'll go from one level of existence to another level, to another level, to another level, higher and higher and higher and higher. I keep on going. There, I end up with when this whole nature, the Prakriti, merges. No, it has expanded and then it will contract and merge. So I have discovered myself as different from the Prakriti, nature. So my soul will merge in that Supreme Soul. So till that time, I've got to wait. And how do I wait? Uh, let's have some song and dancing in this. No, there's. It is there where that soul keeps on meditating. He's in a kind of meditative state. Keeps on meditating and meditating and meditating. He is immersed in what fun is there in meditation? Oh, you don't know what fun is there in meditation. The world appears so small and you appear so large. Right now, the world appears so large and you appear so small because we are not in that meditative state. Once we get into it, and of course, once the mind is engaged in that meditating on the reality, you don't become aware of the passage of time. So you are in those realms, you're meditating on that deity. In a way, you're absorbed in that meditation on deity. You will not understand the passage of time. When the whole thing is over, for the rest of us, you will simply jump over on the other side and say, see ya. So this is where it talks about from meditation on that deity there accrues on the fall of the body, the third. That's the third stage. The full divine power. So, so here we have this the third. Let's talk about this the third. The third state is the state of he's saying. I think if you have the book, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Eighth line from below, you'll see the seventh line. I'll read with this. From the Supreme Lord, after passing through the path of gods constituted by light, etc., as I had mentioned before, the result in the form of the Tritiyam, the third, counting from Virat, the state of God, which is the source of the unmanifested Supreme Space. So let's look at it like that. This person attains a very high stage where kind of a universal power is conferred upon him by the results of his meditation itself. That meditation itself confers that kind of universal power. It's called Vishwam Aishwarya, Vishwam Aishwarya. So that person becomes huge, immense. I mean, he is no longer a human being, but that person has, through his meditation and all, attained not only the state of the lower gods, but even of the higher gods. He attained the state of that universal, you can say, oneness, Virat. He, after experiencing that state and realizing there itself the unconditioned Supreme Self becomes Kevala absolute as a result of renouncing all divine powers. Page 88, that is. Which as God is the source of the unmanifest. So, it's not very important. What is important is that person attains that high state, and after acquiring all these kinds of these powers, the powers derived from meditation, he or she sees all these powers there. It's actually the soul is there. There's no gender there anymore. It's just a convention. Acquires those universal powers, and once the universal power that he sees becomes so great, then he gives up those powers, and on the giving up of the power, that person attains that highest stage, absolute liberation. But till that time, the person does not renounce those universal powers. We're talking about, there are some now who would like to keep something for themselves. Why should I? Why should I give it? I worked for it. I worked hard for it. All these years I've meditated. From morning and afternoon and evening and night I've meditated, and so what? Why should I give? So that person holds on to the powers. And what happens is that person does not get liberation. But in the next cycle of creation, that person emerges once again. But it's not just a simple emerging out. That person comes with tremendous knowledge, with tremendous powers. In the Vedas, these people are called as Prakriti Leena Purushas, that is, as avatars. They come. They because they know the whole of creation from the inside. They merged in the creation that at the end. And they, when the Prakriti started creating, they again re-emerged along with creation out. So they know the internal mechanism of this whole, you can say, system. I know. Now what? Okay. You come with those superhuman, super divine, not superhuman, super divine powers. So all these things, how technically, we would say like, yeah, let it go. We do not know if there have been people like this, but in Ramakrishna and his divine play, the author discusses these concepts, that a person attains those extremely high states of universal kind of lordship and does not renounce, then what happens? Comes back as rulers or masters, parts of the universe. There you are. But like I said, since this is a philosophical system, it has to speak about the other structures also. Like, you build a scaffolding. Okay, the scaffolding can be taken down. It's a temporary thing. But when you talk about philosophy, you got to talk about the main building also, the constructed, you can say, structure. And you got to speak also of the scaffolding. So the Upanishad speaks of two results. One is for those who know, for them all the bondages drop off. Those who do not know fully, they are in the process of knowing, meditating, and then they take this path of light and they go higher and higher and higher krama. They come to a point where they attain all those powers suddenly. Like a person starts meditating, after a while, oh, I got this power. Oh, I got this. There was one Swami. So after a little meditation, and he had been assigned the duty to work in the library. After a few months or years of meditation, every person who's coming to borrow books, he's a library. You're thinking like this. This is a thought in your mind, and the people now then they started becoming cautious around him, and some did not come to the library. They stopped coming. So one day something like this happened, and you're thinking like this. Well, yeah. So then, after he finishes the duty there, he washes his hands. Then he goes for lunch. It's afternoon. The head Swami, oh, nowadays you've been doing some mind reading and all this and that, huh? Well, little power has come. How did you know? How did you know? So obviously, that head Swami knew more than what this person knew. Even Ramakrishna, he scolds Swami Vivekananda. He touches another brother disciple and kind of that other brother disciple feels a kind of an electric current passing through his body, and his mental, spiritual attitude towards the divinity also changes. And Sri Ramakrishna comes and then scolds him. Oh, it was Shivratri, yes, and they were all meditating. And then they say, "Oh, you're spending all these things even without even acquiring them properly or without holding them. Uh, it's good that not much damage has been done to that boy." So there it was. So Ramakrishna knew these guys are doing a little meditation, they've got a little powers and they are now trying to exhibit those things. So you don't have to do all these things. So the soul that has reached that point, it knows, yeah, I've got this. You don't need to exhibit them. You don't need to. You simply give it up. The moment you give it up, there you attain the absolute state. So one is Jivan Mukti, free while still living. That is, you see that reality pervading everything. You see the Atman as separate from this world of Maya. And you, till there is some karma that has fructified in bringing this body, if it is there, then that body will keep on rolling. It will be like you'll be in a kind of a little dream state, in the sense of you're seeing the reality at the same time. Everything appears like a kind of other things appear kind of you're doing things as in a kind of a dream. Think you know, like you're walking also, kind of detached, a state of Jivan Mukti, and they say that it is by the will of God that you can remain in that state. God, what he does is he or she, whatever, in order to do good to this world, keep such people there so that the world becomes purified. People will know, yes, there is something called God, and this person has realized it's not just a figment of some imagination or some sages or some saints or something. And like I said, so there are various paths to liberation. This is one path, and the other is gradually moving up, going higher and higher. We stop here for today. We have a little, we can take this up the next time.